Today we're going to be showing you how to add a single item or a single room to one of the stock subs. So when I first started playing this game, that's one of the first things you realize is you want something subs don't have. So you immediately go to the editor and you start trying to add it. But there's a couple sort of steps that you tend to miss as a new player, or little gotchas, if you will. So I'm going to go over, I guess, 6 steps that you could follow to make sure that you don't miss anything when you're installing either a single item like a fabricator or medical fabricator onto your sub, one of the stock subs specifically in this case, or an entire room. So the steps that I would follow are: first, obviously choose what you want to add and where you want to add it on the sub. Check for available power and edit or adjust the power grid if necessary, because you might not have extra junction box slots to add something. Then make room for the thing you want to add. In the case of adding a new room, you'll have to actually add a new hull or expand existing hulls and then update the neutral ballast, which we'll show you how to do. Then actually install the item and attach the power and signal wires. Then, and this is one thing that maybe you didn't think of, you might have to update the AI waypoints. If you add new things to the sub, it breaks the waypoints. So it's pretty easy to update that, but you have to actually do it. And obviously the last step is I recommend testing what you've added under load. So go in, run the sub, turn on everything, turn on your new item, because you might have to add a little bit of extra power to get it to work properly. So in this example, I'm looking at the Azimuth, and I want to add a medical fabricator. So it already has our medical room, it's just missing a medical fabricator. So I'm just going to move some stuff around a little bit in here to make space for it. So in this case, we don't need to add any extra hulls or anything like that. Right, there'll be enough room just in this room. So I want to move the location of this vent, but the vent is tied to this hull in particular. So I want to make sure, I was going to move it here or over here perhaps, and I want to make sure that it was still in the same hull. I was just checking that. But maybe we don't even need to do that. Here's medical fabricator. That's a little big. Don't mind that. Because the guns are over there, maybe we'll put this on the other side. And I mean, I'm sure the devs painstakingly made these design decisions, but, you know, I'm trying to play the game here, so I want the things that I want. Okay, so we have successfully installed it here. So now I want to check on the power grid and make sure that there's power available. So the Azimuth has like our row of junction boxes here. We can probably grab a power off of one of these ones. So this one's filled. It's already got 5. Maybe they're all filled already. I checked. All right. So what I'm going to do is just add another relay component. And we're going to split off the wires from one of these lamps. And I guess we'll use the same wiring scheme that they're using here. Yeah, so if you just hold down shift, right, you can move it with high granularity and make it line up. All right. So, I mean, obviously you don't have to do this, but now it'll look nice like it's part of the sub. So what I did is, right, I just split off this one power here. So how much are we sending? This is sending 1,000, and it's only sending 3 lamp signals here. And how much are these lamps anyway? So these lamps are using, does it even say? Like, five. Okay. These lamps are using 5. So we are gonna be fine to attach the medical fabricator here. Even though the medical fabricator, I believe, oh, it's 5. For some reason I thought it was 500. I don't know what it's wrong thing. Alright, so let's attach the power now to our newly made relay component here. We're good to go. And now, even if you wanted to add a few other things, right, the relay components there, we've got 1, 2, 3 more things. So we'll just make sure that it's on, because there are settings, right, for the components that you want to have a look at here. So it is on. They're also on. Azimuth, it looks like they intended you to sort of switch those manually if you wanted to. It's kind of interesting. Okay. So the medical fabricator doesn't require any other signal wires of any kind. So basically we're ready to go there. So the other steps I mentioned, we would check the hulls and check the neutral ballast level, but none of that's necessary. So the final step, I guess, is to just test it and see that it actually works. So it seems to have power. And like the power consumption on this thing is so low that it's almost irrelevant at this point. So adding a single item to one of the stock subs when there's space available is pretty easy. We didn't really have to expand anything. It's just a single guy. If you wanted to add something a little bit bigger, it's a little bit more work. So, for example, so I'm going to do the classic, right? Here's the Dugong. And the Dugong, if you've played with it, right, it doesn't have that forward airlock. It has this backwards airlock. So this looks like it's just asking for an airlock here. So what we're going to do is push this security door in, take one of these things out, add a door here, and add the lower airlock. So this is kind of like a more, I don't know, serious build that you would do. And yeah, they do. Okay, so they have these automatic airlock doors. We're going to use the stock automatic airlock doors to make an airlock out of this here. So the first thing, actually, I guess I'm going to do is I need to replace this with a vertical hatch, right? Oops, that's not what it is. Okay. Okay, it's just called auto hatch. What am I saying? So we don't actually want the auto hatch. I guess we want the hatch with buttons. So I just basically want to replace these 2 doors with these 2 doors. So first I need to look at how this is connected. And I just basically replace these components exactly. So if you haven't done this kind of wiring before, what you can actually do is just disconnect this, and now it's sort of dangling. And this is going to the AND component signal out. So I have to just remember this goes to the set state. And I am pretty sure that this airlock is meant to go right to left. This is the bottom door. Yeah. Okay. So then you can get at this wire actually by double clicking on it. And if I just hover over, you can see a list of all the wires connected. And obviously the one that I disconnected only has a single entry there, whereas right, the other ones have 2. So you can just double click that and it like selects it, and then double click on the dangling end. Right? So on one end, this end is connected to the, it's connected to the AND component. I don't know why it's like that. So this was supposed to go to set state. So then we can just sort of do the other ones. They both go to the same place, right? So it's pretty easy. Where's the other one? What's down here? Right? Yeah. Okay. And then we'll just delete this. So you can do this if you didn't know. It's connected to the AND component, but it's like, you know, wherever. So if you really wanted to, right, you could stuff all the wires into like a single section and have all the components, right? So the wires would not actually physically lead to any place. The game doesn't seem to care. It's just a visual thing where the wires go. It's kind of interesting. Okay, so now let's connect the other inside door. So this is that set state one. All right. So you can remove nodes, by the way, by left clicking and then right clicking on the node removes it. I'm just going to delete these other things here. So this pump I want to leave because the way it's set to work is it turns on, well, we have to add power to it, but it turns on when this is shut, right? Which is the outer door, which is what you want. Actually, sorry, it turns on when both of the doors are shut, which is what you want. So in order for this to function properly, though, we have to make sure that the pump is at the right sort of vertical level, because it pumps from, I think, the lowest pixel of the pump itself is where it pumps from. Right? So similarly, you can add nodes by holding down Control and clicking on the wire. All right, so there's our little airlock. So there's one other little trick here that you may not have realized. The hatches actually in the game all have platforms with them. So when you open the door, you don't just fall through it, which is what happens if you don't put this in. So a trick for you. So add one of those platforms. So if you look at the subs, they all have this actually. It's just a nice little trick. All right, so step one complete. We've identified the thing that we wanted to add, and where we want to add it. All right, so step two, check for available power. So the pumps on this thing use very little power, I think, yes, 60. So we only need basically any connection will do. The Dugong is just completely stuffed, I think. It's like everything else is in this game. Well, it's got one here, though. So we can grab one off of this. Why not? It's the only one that's available. Yeah, so I'll fix that later. Once we move it into position. So we should be good to go for... oh my god, that looks perfect already. So we should be good to go for that. So now I just need to make space for this to go, because I don't want I don't want them to be coming up underneath this thing here. I mean, if you don't care about that, then don't worry about it. But for the purposes of aesthetics, I would like it to look a little bit nicer. So I'm just going to hide the walls so that we can see the components that are here. What our head structures too. So now we can move this door and highlight things without worrying too much about that. So when I move it a little bit too far, it's giving me, when I move it a little bit too far, it's giving me this warning, which is telling me that I've moved it too far and I moved it off a hull gap. That's fine, because we're going to fix it anyway. So I'm just going to leave that for now. I'm just going to move one of these guys out of here. Make that a hell of a lot easier for actually playing the game. Because you'd be constantly running in here, right? To get more ammo. And it's just such a pain in the ass when there's a door in the way. So that should be more or less fine. Right? So let's look at the hulls here, right? So the game doesn't like it, so let's fix it. Oh, what did I just do? So just like everything else with the hulls, you can hold down shift and move them like that. And they've got it set up in a weird way that's not on the grid. That's annoying. Okay, looks okay. So you don't want to accidentally leave a space in there because it becomes like a kill space where people can die when they touch it. Which is funny. Alright. So now we need to add a little slot here. And I'm just going to copy and paste this rod. And I mean, for aesthetics purposes, why don't we add these little things that they like to put on the ends, the devs do. Oh, that just looks great, doesn't it? Is that wide enough? That's trivial to fix it. Okay. So we gotta move this over a little bit as well. Might have to push this one in a bit as well too. Make some space, but that's okay. Alright. Is that light on the outside? Okay, be careful not to select things that we don't need to select. Okay, so I'm just gonna line up the top first. And I'll deselect all that crap so that I don't accidentally select it. Yeah, so that's where that was, right? Drop my platform. Alright, so the pump can just sit right on top of the door. If you don't like that, I guess you can put it off to the side like I just did there. Did we do that? Let's do this then, I guess. What did they, oh, so for that outside airlock, they just leave it like that, eh? Okay, well, we can do that too. Okay, so now the critical thing that we're missing is we need to add a hull. And I mean, maybe we'll also add one of these things here. Make it look, half decent. I forgot the water detector here. Make sure that that is able to also detect the water. So I like to stack it right there with the pump so that you don't lose track of it. Are these not lined up? I don't think they are. Oh, that was stuffed into the wall a little bit there, that's fine. Okay. Oh, right, we need a ladder. Don't forget about that. How do you spell ladder? My God. Ladder rect or just regular ladder? Regular ladder. So a trick with the ladders is also you want to make sure that it goes up high enough so that you can actually get off of it. Which, although hilarious, makes it so it's not too useful. We might have to rethink that a little bit so that it's possible to click on that so you don't accidentally click on it. So the design, specific design, I suppose is up to you to make it look good. But in this case, I suppose it's function over form. Okay, so now the critical thing we're missing is a hull. So you can copy and paste it, or you can just add it yourself. So we can slap this in here. All right, not too bad. I think we want to bring this up as high as is reasonable here, so that the sub ends sort of right at the over there. Pretty sure that's how they do it up here, right? I guess it's all partway through the door. All right. So it's not necessary, but we can give this like a room name, right? Like, I don't know. Bottom airlock or something. And then that'll appear in the status monitor. What does this do? Avoid staying. Use wet room. Okay, so this will help for also, I think, new status monitor things. So we want to select that because it is going to get wet. All right, so now the only other thing we need to do is update the neutral ballast because we literally added something here. So the way that you check that is you select the rooms that you're having as ballast tanks. So for the Dugong, these two. And it tells us neutral ballast level 0.5419. So you go into your navigation terminal, scroll down to some point here where previously it was 0.5230. So now we have to make it 5419. And I highly recommend that you make this like literally 4 decimal places as precisely as possible, because if you don't, the sub will drift either up or down depending on which way you change the number. I mean, if you're only off by 0.0001, obviously the drift will be very slow, but nevertheless. Okay, so now let's just make sure we haven't missed anything. Did I connect the power? Yes. We connected the hulls. All right, let's just go through the steps. So first we chose what we wanted to add. Then we checked for the available power, which we did. And we didn't have to add anything in the Dugong's case. Then we just made the room and we expanded the hulls and we updated the neutral ballast level. Then we attached the power, which I actually did before that, and installed the item. So now we have to update the waypoints. Don't want to forget about that one. So if we go waypoints, so this is where the places I suppose the AI is allowed to go. So we don't have any here. So the AI would never go in here, and it would probably get all screwed up on this ladder. So we can make them manually if you want. There's like a waypoint put in, or you can just say generate waypoints. Right, so let's just do this. Generate waypoints. It says some stuff about waypoints. We'll just say okay. So then the game says nicely waypoints have been successfully generated, and it nicely connected everything there. The reason that that worked was because we properly built the hull and the ladder and the doors and everything beforehand. If you don't, it won't generate waypoints in here because there's no ladder. It won't generate these waypoints on the door, which will prevent the bots from opening the doors. So you have to sort of check for these things, right? And so the game shows you a little symbol indicating that it's put a waypoint there that the bots can do something with, right? So they can grab the ladder, they can open the door, they can climb the ladder, right? They can open the door. If these symbols don't appear, those waypoints are not doing their jobs. So you want to check that, especially when you hit regenerate waypoints. Sometimes things are broken elsewhere, but I don't think they would be anymore. In the past of this game, things would be broken. So now I think we're actually ready to test it. See if we can go in and out of the hull and see if the doors work correctly. Or if I installed it backwards. Yep. Seems to work. All right, out we go. Shut the door, swim around outside the sub. Well, there we go. It says it's under more automatic control. So me switching that doesn't actually do anything. Just had to wait for the power to come on in the sub. So there you have success. So the way that this airlock works is when I click this one, it doesn't let me leave immediately. When I click on the hatch at the bottom, it closes the upper one. Right, so I click, it closes it. So it's a most basic airlock hatch. I mean, you don't really quote unquote need anything else. Right, so then I can leave. So there's your basic airlock hatch. So now we'll just also double check on the status monitor that it's picking it up, right? Bottom airlock, there it is. So one final detail, you see water level 2%. So we didn't place the pump and the water detector perfectly because there's still a little bit of water in there. It should be 0. You did it correctly. Also, I forgot that we did not add a ventilation in there. You don't necessarily need to add ventilation in there because when you open the door, it will fill it with air and it's continuously being filled with water, right? And right, it's not 100% necessary, but you could. See, this airlock doesn't have ventilation in it, so it's not 100% necessary. In fact, in the Dugong, this room doesn't have ventilation in it either. Go figure. So there you have it. That's the basics of how you add a single room to your sub. In this case, a lower airlock for the Dugong. So we only used stock item assemblies and things to do it. So hopefully, if you're having issues adding things to your subs, you don't know where to start, this will give you a leg up on, I guess, basic steps that you can take to add something to your sub. And that's, I mean, if you want to add something more complex, you just have to look a little bit more carefully at what the devs have shown you for how to set things up, right? Guns, right? Super electrical discharge coils, right? How they use the super caps. Just have a look at what the devs have shown you and use that as a roadmap for how to wire basic things. And away you go from there. So if you're still watching, I hope you've enjoyed this video and stay tuned for more Barotrauma guide videos.